I can't tell you how many people are out there reinventing things that don't need to be reinvented. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of like, hey, we got this thing that does this. And I'm like, yeah, and that does that same thing and it's significantly cheaper. Like you're just trying to make money off of nothing. A Spax washer head structural screw. I also have a GRK standard exterior screw. And then I have just a couple nails that I'm going to sink into the end. And we're going to try to pull them out with a hammer to see if this end grain over time as it gets wet loses some of its integrity. I'm just going to give you a practical rundown of pressure treated and Owens Corning lumber after being out in the weather. This one's been out in the weather for about a year. I would say anywhere from 10 to 12 months. This has been out in the weather for about, I would say, a month and a half maybe. And both just got rained on for the past week or so. And I wanted to do some end grain test just to show you guys kind of what we're dealing with. So first off, this was kind of leaning against some mud, so I can wipe this off. But I can definitely see, as I look around here, you can see some browning, some obviously some, I don't know if that's mold. I think it's just moisture content in the wood. It definitely soaked up into the part that was sitting on that water. Whereas if you look at the Owens Corning, obviously it doesn't absorb water, so you know it is what it is. But what I wanted to go over more than anything was the fastener strength of the end grain for the Owens Corning versus this. The other cool thing that I like about Owens Corning, let's see if I have any water here. Give me some water. Give me some water. If I just take some water and a rag, I can wipe this board down to where it pretty much looks as good as new. That's one cool thing about Owens Corning is no matter how long it sits out in the weather, you can use it on a client's job. It's not losing its integrity. It's not losing its shine. Obviously, a power washer where you're not rubbing mud around like I am would be ideal. But again, oops. After wiping it off, obviously you have Owens Corning looking as good as new, which we all know. As for pressure treated, you're most likely not going to be using pressure treated as a trim or as any type of fascia on a deck or anything. So I don't think it really matters that you can't wipe it down. It's going to discolor and change over time anyway. Let's start with a nail first because we know that we're going to be able to pull a nail out no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and just sink this nail in here, right? I mean, that sinks in pretty easy, too easy, because once I get this under here, it's just going to come right out. So obviously a nail is not going to hold in there, but let's try a screw and see. Let's do a different spot. Let's try a screw. So we have that sucked in there. Let's see if it's possible to pull that screw out. I don't want to break my... Oh man. I mean, look at that. Just comes right out. You can see all the wood that got pulled out with it. Screw bent a little bit. But honestly, what you would like is for the screw to snap before you can pull it out. These screws obviously snap more so than nails. Nails are meant to bend and they have a little bit more shear value. These ones snap. So the fact that it came out before it snapped is no good. Let's try that again. Maybe I hit a bad spot. Let's try sinking that in. Again, abnormally easy to pop that screw out. That's not good, okay? So now I'm gonna try this Spax power lag and see if we can pull it out of here. I'm gonna do it in a new spot down here. You can see the moisture kind of smushing, coming out when I screw this in. That's retaining a lot of moisture. That's not good. The biggest issue that I will say with wood though is wood can get wet. That's fine. A lot of people think that wood can't get wet. Wood can get wet. The biggest issue is letting that dry out. And when you have butt joints or you have things covering it where it doesn't dry out quickly, that's when the mold and the rot sets in. So again, don't get alarmed when your wood gets wet. What you need to make sure is that your wood can dry properly. And although that's good. It will still weaken over time, but it'll weaken significantly slower than if you were to just let it stay wet. So the number one thing about working with lumber, with organic lumber, is making sure that if it is in a place where it's going to get wet, that it has the ability to dry. We can pull this out. I'd be shocked if I could pull this out. I really don't think that that's a possibility. Uh-oh. No way. No way. Wow. Dang. So even with a power lag, well, this is why if you're building a premium deck, you don't use pressure treated. And if you do use pressure treated, you make sure you get all that water protected from landing on this wood, because as much as this wood, it's okay to get wet. If you're on a deck that's 8 feet off the ground, 4 feet off the ground, and you just let this get rained on, that's when you start getting sags. When these decks start to sag, right, the whole deck doesn't need to fail. Most decks don't fail completely. It's the fact that one spot starts to fail and stops carrying the load that it's supposed to be carrying, which means the next joist over is carrying more load. And then that's getting that excessive pressure, and then that starts to fail. Then the next one has even more load that's on it. So when you have your ledger board going out, because moisture gets in there, ledger boards have a lot of moisture. There's actually a new code that was just implemented that it shows the exact flashing that you need to do for your ledger board, because it is a huge failing point. I would say the number one spot where decks fail. That's why you have to keep water off these things. And as much as we try, water always gets in there, the condensation, right? It's not just direct rainwater. It's that moisture that collects up under there. It's like boiling a pot of water with a lid on. That lid isn't touching water, but it's that moisture that reaches that condensation, and then that condensation drips back even under your flashing. So flashing correctly on pressure treated is extremely important, but also just double checking your deck every year or so to make sure that your important, connections aren't weakening, because like you saw here, that was me with a hammer, right? My force pulling that out is nowhere close to what an entire deck landing on a ledger board is. We have thousands and thousands of pounds holding onto a ledger board of pressure treated, and if I can pull it out with a little Paquito pink hammer, your deck can definitely separate from that. And the crazy part is our joists aren't even connected to these boards with power lags. Usually they're with Simpson nails or Simpson hanger screws, which are great, but they're only as good as the material that they're sinking into. So let's move to the Owens Corning lumber. All right, so here we have the Owens Corning. This is a 2x6. This material, obviously, is the exact same as the material that's all throughout the body of the board, right? So if I'm screwing in here or I'm screwing in here, it makes no difference. I have the same level of security, of grip that I would have if I was screwing here, which is the cool part about Owens Corning. Not to mention, even though this has been sitting in water for the last 5 days, none of that water has absorbed in here. This is completely bone dry after I wiped it off, right? So that is a huge bonus about Owens Corning, is why I tell people you don't need to build a whole deck with Owens Corning, but I would highly recommend, and for me it's a non-negotiable, for stair stringers and ledger boards, I will always use Owens Corning lumber, period. No questions asked. It is worth the price to do that. And for those of you who don't know, for Owens Corning, you can expect to pay 3 to 4 times as much than you would for pressure treated. It is more expensive. I'm not going to beat around the bush and be like, this is the best product ever. It comes at a cost, which is why I don't think it's for absolutely everything. But I also think if you're building something with a $50,000 composite deck on top of it, it's worth getting better framing so you'll never have to replace it. It comes with a 25-year limited warranty for commercial and a lifetime limited warranty for residential. So they obviously stand behind the durability. So right off the bat, let's start with a nail, which again should come out fairly easy. You can already tell hammering it in is significantly harder because it hasn't lost its integrity. So we got that in there. I can pull it out. I would say it's a tad bit harder than the pressure treated. I gave it a little bit more oomph than the pressure treated, but still, nails are going to come out. That's what nails are for. I mean, if it was a ring shank, it'd probably be a different story. But for a standard nail, there really isn't a problem pulling that out. So moving on to our GRK exterior screw. We're gonna go ahead and put this puppy in here. Let's get this puppy. I want to, can you guys see the hammer bending? How do I grab this without pulling this off my, how do I'm trying to figure, here we go. I'm getting a longer bar just so you guys see that I'm not messing around here. It won't come out. I don't know how to. It does not budge. There we go. I got it. See, I told you I'm not faking. I got it. So you can see you've got that composite on that screw. You can see how much that screw bent. Again, I'm surprised that the screw didn't snap. I would have liked it to snap, but overall, significantly harder to pull this out than you would pressure treated. Pressure treated just pops right out. Let's go to the power lag. You can see the dent I made in that, just trying to pull it out. All right. I already know this isn't going to happen. I'm literally bending my hammer. Can you guys see the hammer bending? All right, the only way that I've been able to get it out is if I go sideways. Let's try sideways. Oh. The screw snaps. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get this out. Clearly, I'm sweating. Clearly, Owens Corning has a lot more grab on the end grain than the pressure treated by a significant standard. Now, obviously, as I just showed you, I can still pull them out, but overall, what you're looking for is when you have things sucked in there tight, there's no way that Owens Corning is gonna fail nearly as quickly as pressure treated lumber. So overall, what I would say, guys, is Owens Corning, it does not rust, it does not rot, it does not warp, it has no twists in it, it has no knots. There's no weakness to Owens Corning lumber. And where I tell a lot of people, and this is where a lot of people don't see the value, is I don't think the value in Owens Corning is necessarily the lifetime warranty. I really don't. People try to sell me warranties all the time. I'm just not a big fan of warranties. I think specifically buying a warranty is a waste of money. Owens Corning comes with a 25-year warranty, which is great. And that's for commercial, and it comes with a limited lifetime warranty for residential. Those things are really good selling points. But for the contractor and the homeowner, here's where I found the value and where I save money using Owens Corning lumber. When I get a bunk dropped of Owens Corning lumber to the job site, I do not have to pick through the lumber. And I made a video about it, and I'll tag the video below. But I do not have to pick through the pile. When I get a bunk of Owens Corning, I pull right off that pile and I start cutting and I start building. When I get a bunk of standard lumber or pressure treated lumber, I first go through the lumber and I scrap all the pieces that are non-usable, right? And once I do that and I have a stack of lumber that I'm going to use, then I go through and I crown all those pieces. And then I go through and I mark all the ones that I need to cut the ends off that have splits, or the ones that have knots or have cups. All those I go and I mark through, and I put some of them over like, hey, that's good enough for a joist, that's good enough for a stair stringer, and you spend hours going through your lumber, and then you also have a significant amount of waste of boards you just can't use. And if you get 12 footers, you're cutting some of them down to 10 footers because you're cutting edges off, and it's just a lot of waste. With Owens Corning, from end to end, when it gets dropped on the build site, I can use every inch of that board on my build. So right off the bat, I'm getting to the build sooner. I'm spending less labor and money paying people to go through the bunks and crown and all this other stuff, as well as it's less of a thought process for me when I laser set my brackets, because again, all of this dimension is exactly the same. every 2x6 that you get from Owens Corning is going to be the exact same dimension. So I can set my brackets on my sawhorse, hang the ledger board with my brackets already installed. I just go through and I drop my Owens Corning in. I attach everything like I'm supposed to, and I'm done with that build and I'm on to the next project, right? So overall, where the money savings is I've done what? I've done probably 13, 14 full jobs of Owens Corning. And what I realize is it's cutting down my labor time almost in half, right? So instead of spending 6 days on a job, I'm spending 3. So that means when I'm done with that job in 3 days, I can get to another job quicker, right? Or I can get to decking quicker, or I can get to the next part of the project quicker, right? So my money is churning a lot quicker because I'm using Owens Corning. Whereas if I'm using standard lumber, I'm spending more time on the job, more labor, more transportation to and from that job. So if you actually look at this being 3, 4, 5 times more than your traditional pressure treated, but you're saving 50% in labor, imagine having 4 guys on the job for 3 additional days. What does that dollar amount come to? I will say I don't think I've ever done a job cheaper price wise. I've never done a job that's been less expensive using Owens Corning, but I have done jobs that are very close. I'm talking about within a couple $1,000s when I take into account labor rates, time, fuel, and all those other things, as well as waste. The other aspect I love about this is if I have 15 boards left over, I'm not like, oh, well, I got 15 pressure treated boards. If I set these out in my shop and they dry or they get heated up, they get cooled down, they're in the sun, whatever it is, I can't use them on the next job. Again, this board is over a year old, about a year old, and I don't have it covered. It's been sitting in a pile over by a tree, and every board in there is still completely usable. So there's less scrap, there's less waste, there's less stuff going to the landfill, and you're getting jobs done quicker. I highly recommend if you've never put hands on Owens Corning, because again, I'm a guy online making videos. You guys are like, oh, he's bought and paid for. Don't believe what I'm saying. I'm just giving you the information. Go put hands on. If you guys go to trade shows or you have a local lumber yard that carries Owens Corning, buy a piece or ask them like, hey, can I put my hands on some of this? Can I put some screws into a scrap piece? Can I put some screws into a sample or whatever, and actually feel it for yourself. It's one of those things. When I was first looking at Owens Corning, I'm like, that's just another reinvention of something that didn't need to be reinvented, right? I can't tell you how many people are out there reinventing things that don't need to be reinvented. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of like, hey, we got this thing that does this. And I'm like, yeah, and that does that same thing. And it's significantly cheaper. Like you're just trying to make money off of nothing. But Owens Corning is one of those things where I thought that at first. And the more that I use it, the more I'm like, all right, this is a problem that needed to be solved. And as a high performance builder like I am, where I want things to be perfect, I want to be able to slide my level across. I want things within a 16th. I mean, I don't always get there, but that's what I strive for. Owens Corning gives me the ability to do that while solving multiple problems with moisture, with weather, with discrepancies in lumber. It solves so many problems that I'm willing to pay that price. And I also have gotten good enough with it to where I realize that there's savings in there for me to get jobs done quicker. So this was just a quick, simple test of Owens Corning versus pressure treated. I hope it was helpful to some of you guys. Again, honest review, I'm here at my trailer. I got rained out. My build site is completely underwater. So I figured I'd make this video for you guys. I am actually using Owens Corning on my footing framing. So I'm using this to frame my footings. And it's huge. I mean, I was not expecting this, but the fact that I have Owens Corning 3 feet underwater over there is really cool because I know that this isn't going to expand or contract or weaken, even though it's submerged in water. I'm going to get that water pumped out, and this is going to be as straight as an arrow. It's going to be as solid as it ever was, and I don't have to worry about it. So again, it's a material that solves so many problems. I love it. Think about ways that you guys can work with it. Think about ways that you can save money if you're knocking out a job in half the time. Where's that money savings coming from? As well as a huge thing that we did on that video I mentioned before that's tagged below. A huge thing that I realized is when you're doing stair stringers or you're doing any type of framing where you're going to put fascia around it, the cost to get fascia is really expensive. I mean, it's pretty much the cost of Owens Corning. So not only are you framing an entire deck and then you have to go back and have a standoff of a 1/4 inch or whatever it is that Trex recommends, you have to have a standoff rain screen for your fascia. Then you go and you put all your fascia on, you cut your fascia for your stair stringers. That adds even more time to your project. Whereas if you frame with Owens Corning, this is your finished fascia. This is your trim board. It comes in multiple colors. You can match it with your decking and you're done. So when I'm done with my frame, whether I'm framing a band board, whether I'm framing my stair stringers with a toe kick, whatever it is, I'm done. When I'm done framing, I throw the deck on and I walk off. Right? It's not boom, we got the framing done. Everybody go around and start, putting your rain screens on or your spacers, start cutting the fascia, get your fascia miters right. You miter this stuff and you're done. So think about Owens Corning in a way of like, is this really going to speed up my workflow? Can I get to more jobs quickly? Can I have less labor expenses? Can I have, less discrepancies, less waste? And that's when you start to see that price come into focus, and you're like, okay, this is worth it. It's like when I frame with Huber Wood, Huber engineered wood zip system. People were like, oh, it's an extra $15 per 4x8 sheet. And then you're like, oh, but I don't have to go around with three guys with house wrap. I don't have to repair the house wrap when it sits in the weather for a couple days. I don't have to, get staples and cap nails. I don't have to do all these extra steps. I don't have to smooth it down before I put siding on. It's things like that where you're like, $15 extra a board and it's saving me a week on the job. Absolutely, I go for it. And I rarely frame with anything but Huber Zip. So again, it's one of those things where at first I get it. I get the skepticism. Oh, they're just reinventing the wheel to make money. Then you use it and you're like, I'm getting a better product. I'm getting a better warranty. I'm getting more efficient build, and I'm getting it done quicker, and I'm saving money on labor, saving time on transportation. Things add up. Think about it critically. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Some people hate it. A lot of people hate it just because people see something that they just, I mean, we got guys out here that would still be building with Adobe if they could. Old head contractors die hard. And I'm all for it. Keep doing what you're doing if it works. But I'm always striving to be better, and I'm always striving to not charge my client more, but I'm trying to give them a better product. I've seen too many decks fail. I've seen too many homes get moldy and rotted out, and I want to avoid that. When I'm building my home here, I'm building my home out of concrete. I'm not building this to get it done as cheap as possible. I'm building this so that when I'm dead and gone, this will always be standing here for my kids with no maintenance required. And when they're gone, this will be standing here for their kids with no maintenance. That's the way I build. Not everyone is like that, but if you are like that, then I definitely recommend checking out Owens Corning or Owens Corning Lumber. So that's all I got for you guys on this video. Owens Corning versus pressure treated. I highly recommend it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure to ring the bell, subscribe, like the video if you did. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Much love, y'all.